deep within an ancient, enchanted forest. Nestled among whispering trees and sparkling streams, lay a secret fairy village. For centuries, this was a place of pure joy and harmony. The fairies, with their shimmering wings and laughter like tiny bells, lived in blissful peace. They danced in the moonlight, painted with dewdrops, and filled the air with sweet melodies. But one day, a shadow fell upon their idyllic home. It began subtly, a fairy missing from the morning chorus. Another not showing up to paint the sunrise. At first, no one thought much of it, but soon, the disappearances became more frequent, more alarming. One by one, fairies were vanishing without a trace. A cold dread seeped into the village, chilling the once warm air. The cheerful songs were replaced by frightened whispers, and the vibrant colors of the village seemed to fade into shades of gray. The magnificent fairy queen, her face etched with worry, could no longer ignore the growing panic. She summoned her bravest and most loyal soldiers, their armor gleaming like polished beetle shells. "Find our people," she commanded, her voice echoing through the silent grand hall. "Search every hollow log, every hidden grove, and under every mushroom cap. Do not return until you have found them." The soldiers fanned out, their determination a small beacon of hope in the spreading gloom. Days turned into nights, and nights into weeks. The soldiers searched tirelessly, but each time, they returned with their heads bowed, their wings drooping in failure. They found nothing. No clues, no tracks, not a single sign of the missing fairies. Hope began to dwindle, and the village was consumed by a quiet despair. But even in the darkest of times, a flicker of light can remain. In the heart of the village stood a unique little shop, a splash of vibrant color against the growing drabness. It was the Pink Salon, a cozy haven made from a giant, hollowed-out rose. This salon was the creation of a young fairy named Gull. Gull was unlike any other fairy. Her spirit was as bright as her favorite color, pink, and her creativity knew no bounds. She wasn't a soldier or a royal guard. She was an artist. Gull had a special gift for seeing the beauty and magic in the world around her, especially in flowers. Every morning, with a cheerful hum, Gull would venture into the meadows, accompanied by her fluttery friends, the butterflies. They were her little helpers, guiding her to the most colorful and fragrant blossoms. She would carefully collect petals of every hue: fiery reds, sunny yellows, deep purples, and, of course, every shade of pink imaginable. Back in her salon, she would grind the petals with a crystal pestle and mortars, mixing them with morning dew and a sprinkle of pure sunlight. This was her secret recipe for creating the most magical makeup in the entire kingdom. Her specialty was eyeshadow palettes. Each one was a work of art, a tiny mosaic of pressed flower magic. When a fairy dusted the colors onto her eyelids, they didn't just add color. They shimmered with the memory of sunshine, held the scent of a spring morning, and sparkled with a touch of enchantment. Every fairy in the village cherished Gull's creations. Her palettes weren't just makeup. They were a small dose of happiness, a reminder of the beauty that still existed in their world, even as fear threatened to overwhelm it. Little did anyone know, Gull's artistic talent and her love for colors were about to play a role far more important than simply brightening someone's day. Her unique magic was destined to uncover the truth behind the mysterious disappearances and bring hope back to the heart of the fairy village. But her journey was just beginning, and a great challenge awaited her. Once upon a time, nestled deep within a whispering forest, lay a hidden village of fairies. Among them was a kind-hearted fairy named Gull. Her days were filled with laughter, sunlight filtering through the canopy, and the joyful company of her friends. They would dance on dewdrops, paint sunsets with pollen, and sing the forest to sleep each night. Gull cherished these moments, believing their peaceful world would last forever. But a shadow was beginning to stretch over their idyllic home. One day, her friend Willer, who loved to paint ladybugs, didn't show up at their usual meeting spot by the babbling brook. The next day, Pip, who could mimic any birdsong, was gone. Panic, cold and sharp, began to prickle at Gull's heart. Her friends, her closest companions, were vanishing one by one, leaving behind only silence and a growing sense of dread. The vibrant colors of the village seemed to fade, replaced by muted tones of worry and fear. Gull couldn't just sit by and do nothing. She spent her days searching, calling their names until her voice was hoarse, her wings heavy with sorrow. One evening, driven by a desperate hope, she flew to a high, windswept hill to gather moon-petal herbs, which were said to bring clarity. As the twin moons cast a silvery glow over the land, she saw something below that made her blood run cold. Two of the queen's royal guards were dragging a struggling fairy, her wings glinting with tears, towards the gleaming spires of the palace. Gull froze, her mind reeling in disbelief. The queen? But she was their beloved monarch, known throughout the land for her kindness and grace. How could this be? Heart pounding against her ribs, she flew back to the village as fast as her trembling wings could carry her. She burst into the village square, her words tumbling out in a frantic rush, telling everyone what she had witnessed on the hill. But her story was met with angry glares and dismissive shakes of the head. "How dare you slander our good queen?" an elder scolded, his voice sharp. "She's as worried as any of us. She has sent her best guards to search for our missing kin," the other fairies murmured in agreement, turning their backs on Gull. They saw her not as a concerned friend, but as a troublemaker, spreading lies and discord when they needed unity the most. Alone and disbelieved, Gull felt a profound sense of isolation. It wasn't long before word of Gull's accusation reached the palace. A royal summons was issued. "The queen wishes to see the fairy Gull," the decree announced, and 2 stern guards arrived to escort her. As she was led through the grand, cold corridors of the palace, a terrible premonition settled over her. This wasn't an invitation. It was a trap. She was brought before the queen in her private chambers. The queen sat before a grand, ornate mirror, her reflection smiling back, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. They were as cold and hard as diamonds. "So," the queen said, her voice like honey laced with venom, "you are the little storyteller." Without another word, she gestured to a curtained-off section of the room. A guard pulled the curtain aside, and Gull gasped in horror. There, laid out on tables, were delicate, severed fairy wings, and bubbling vats of shimmering liquid. The royal physician was grinding the iridescent wings into a fine powder. The queen's kindness was a mask. Her worry was a lie. She had been kidnapping Gull's friends, stealing their very essence, all for a selfish, twisted desire to use their magic to create creams and potions that would keep her forever young and beautiful. The beloved queen was a monster, and Gull was now trapped in her lair. Thank you so much for watching this dark fairy tale unfold. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure into the shadows. We'll see you in the next video. Have you ever heard the story of the queen who was so obsessed with her own beauty that she would do the unthinkable? In a kingdom shimmering with magic, there lived a queen whose vanity knew no bounds. Her secret to eternal youth was a dark and terrible one. She consumed the very essence of living fairies, believing their magic would keep her forever beautiful. One day, her guards captured a young fairy named Gull. They were ruthless, tearing the delicate wings from her back and presenting her, broken and bleeding, before the tyrannical queen. The court expected Gull to be locked away in the deepest dungeon, her life force slowly drained for the queen's selfish desires. But the queen, in a fit of cruel amusement, had a different idea. "Throw her into the dark forest," she commanded with a sneer. "Let's see if she survives a place from which no one has ever returned." The guards dragged Gull to the edge of the forbidden woods and tossed her in like a piece of refuse. She landed hard, the world spinning into blackness. When Gull finally regained consciousness, she was surrounded by a terrifying sight. Towering, black trees with twisted branches clawed at the sky, blocking out any hint of sunlight. An oppressive silence hung in the air, broken only by the sound of her own ragged breaths. She was weak, starving, and a cold fear gripped her heart. This was it. This was where she would perish. Just as despair began to consume her, a gentle, warm light touched her cheek. She blinked, her eyes adjusting, and saw something impossible in the gloom. A single, magnificent golden flower, glowing with an inner luminescence that pushed back the suffocating darkness. Its beauty was breathtaking, a beacon of hope in a world of shadows. Gull was mesmerized. She crawled towards it, her body aching with every movement, and reached out a trembling hand. The moment her fingertips brushed against its soft petals, the entire forest erupted in a blinding, golden light. It wasn't harsh or painful, but warm and invigorating, pouring into her, healing her wounds, and filling her with a power she had never known. She felt a tingling sensation on her back, and when she looked over her shoulder, she gasped. Her wings had not only grown back, but they were larger, stronger, and shimmering with a radiant, ethereal light that outshone even the moon. Standing tall, her new wings beating softly, Gull was no longer the frightened, broken fairy who had been thrown away.
A new fire burned in her eyes.
She looked towards the distant palace, her voice ringing with newfound strength as she swore an oath to the silent, watching trees. That wicked queen has stolen her last life! She will face her end, and it will be by my hands. Gull knew a direct assault was foolish. The queen was too well guarded. She needed guile. She needed cunning. The forest, once her prison, was now her arsenal. She learned the secrets of its plants, from the most beautiful flowers that held deadly poisons to the humble herbs that could be enchanted to create powerful illusions. With this knowledge, she began her work, crafting a collection of magical makeup and deadly potions. A lipstick that could deliver a silent, painless end. An eyeshadow that could weave confusing spells. A perfume that could lull the sharpest minds into a deep, unending sleep. Once her creations were complete, she began her transformation. Using her enchanted cosmetics, she disguised herself completely. Her features shifted, her aura changed, and her radiant wings were hidden beneath an elaborate, silken robe. She was no longer Gull, the forgotten fairy. She was now a mysterious envoy, an emissary from a faraway land. With her disguise perfected, she made her way back to the palace. The guards, who once manhandled her, now bowed low, awestruck by her regal presence. She announced herself as a special messenger, sent by the Princess of China with rare and priceless gifts exclusively for the queen. The news spread like wildfire through the court, and soon, she was granted an audience. As she entered the throne room, she saw the queen, as beautiful and as cruel as ever. The queen's eyes lit up with greed as she saw the ornate boxers Gull carried. "You bring gifts for me?" the queen asked, her voice dripping with arrogance. "From the Princess of China, you say? Show me what you have." Gull smiled, a calm, knowing smile. "Of course, Your Majesty," she replied, her voice smooth as silk. "I have brought you secrets to a beauty even greater than your own. A beauty that will last an eternity." And with that, she opened the first box. Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today, I have a story that's a little dark, a little magical, and full of twists and turns. It's a tale about beauty, betrayal, and the ultimate triumph of good over evil. So, get comfortable, and let's dive into the story of Gull and the Vain Queen. Our story begins in a magnificent palace, ruled by a queen obsessed with her own beauty. She would spend hours gazing into her enchanted mirror, demanding to be told she was the most beautiful in all the land. One day, a young fairy named Gull was brought before her. Gull possessed a unique talent for creating the most exquisite cosmetics from flowers and stardust. The queen, immediately captivated by the shimmering powders and fragrant creams, saw a new way to enhance her own beauty. With a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, she commanded, "You will stay here. You will teach my maids how to create these wonders so that my beauty can shine even brighter." Gull, seeing no other choice, agreed. But beneath her obedient nod, a plan was beginning to form. Gull knew this queen was not just vain, but cruel. She had stripped the fairies of their wings and kept them imprisoned, all to hoard their magic for herself. This was her chance to fight back. And so, Gull began her secret mission. While teaching the maids the art of cosmetic making, she started to alter the queen's personal supply. Into the queen's favorite luxurious face cream, Gull secretly mixed a tiny, almost undetectable amount of a substance she knew would have a powerful effect. Mercury. At first, the results were astonishing. The queen's skin took on an ethereal glow, looking smoother and more radiant than ever before. She praised Gull, showering her with false kindness, completely unaware of the poison she was eagerly applying to her face. But the magical glow was short-lived. Soon, the queen's reflection began to change. Fine lines deepened into wrinkles, and her once flawless complexion started to look dull and decayed. Panic began to set in. The queen demanded more creams, more treatments, but nothing worked. The damage had been done. Her beauty, the very source of her power and pride, was slipping through her fingers like sand. Seeing the queen distracted by her fading looks, Gull moved to the next phase of her plan. She began to subtly add a slow-acting, colorless poison to the queen's daily drinks. A few drops in her morning tea, a little in her evening wine. It was a poison not meant to be fatal, but to weaken and disfigure. Within days, the queen's health started to decline rapidly. She grew frail and sickly, and her appearance became more and more unsettling. The vibrant ruler was now a hunched, hideous figure. One morning, the palace halls echoed with a terrible scream. The queen had looked in her mirror and could no longer recognize the monstrous face staring back at her. My face, my youth, where has it all gone? She shrieked, collapsing in a heap of despair. Her legs were too weak to hold her, and the magic that once allowed her to float gracefully through the air had vanished completely. She was a prisoner in her own decaying body. While the queen was lost in her misery, Gull was busy. Using the last of her hidden magic, she brewed a special, powerful potion. It shimmered with captured moonlight and the essence of freedom. With the potion secured, she crept down into the dark, cold royal dungeons. There, in cages of iron and shadow, were her fellow fairies, their wings clipped, their spirits broken. Gull moved from cell to cell, freeing each one. She offered them the shimmering potion, and as they drank, a miracle occurred. From their backs, new wings began to sprout, beautiful, iridescent wings, stronger and more vibrant than before. A wave of silent, joyful tears swept through the dungeon. Their freedom, their very identity, was restored. Together, the newly liberated fairies rose into the air. They flew out of the dungeon, through the palace corridors, and into the open sky, leaving the evil queen to face her grim fate, alone with her shattered mirror and lost beauty. The fairies flew back to their hidden village in the heart of the forest. The air was filled with laughter and the sound of fluttering wings. From that day forward, they lived in peace and happiness, free from the tyranny of the vain queen. Their story became a legend, a reminder that true beauty comes from kindness and courage, and that freedom is the most precious magic of all. Thank you so much for joining me for this story. I hope it reminded you that true strength isn't about what you see on the outside, but what's in your heart. If you enjoyed this